When it begins to snow, everything starts to seem magical. But what happens when this magical time becomes a nightmare? Grab your winter coat and start listening to 3 true out in the snow horror stories. Number 1. I live in the UK, in England. We had some really bad snow a couple of years ago. I have a German Shepherd, and I take him out for a walk regularly. I do like to be outdoors, so the snow only really adds to my experience of the walk. Anyway, it was the height of the snow, and I decided to take my dog out for one final walk of the day. Now, I always walk the same trail, down the side of my house, onto a little side street that goes down into a little forested area, and then it's a little trail that goes up and does a circle around on itself. I did this walk pretty much every day for the last 10 years. The ground is a solid white. There were no footprints or markings in the snow, so it was just one solid white. It's about up to my ankles, and after a couple of minutes, I start to get a strange feeling. A feeling as if I was being watched. Now I know it was cold and the hairs on my neck were standing up, but it felt like it was for a different reason. I stop. I look around, but I can't see anything. My dog starts to growl. He starts moving his head left to right, as if looking for something. That's when I start to hear the sound of snow being crushed under someone's feet. I try to home in on the sound, but then I realize it's coming from multiple directions. First it's to my left, then it's behind me, then it's to my left again. I'm confused, and my dog is confused. Is there anybody out there? Nobody replied, but the footsteps continued. The surrounding area was covered in trees, so my way of thinking, there could have been plenty of places for someone to hide, but there was no way someone could move that fast. Hello, is there anybody there? In that instant, I catch something out of the corner of my eye, and I turn to catch a humanoid figure 300 feet ahead of me, leaning out from behind a tree. The moment I see it, it runs in the opposite direction, and my dog pulls on the lead and manages to break free from my grip. He runs towards the creature, who's moving faster than anything I'd ever seen before. I run after them until my dog disappears from my sight. I hear him bark several times, followed by a crippling scream that sounded like it came from a horror movie. It was silent. I'd feared the worst, as I never saw a creature like that before. Even though I didn't get a good glimpse, I could tell it was not something normal. I could almost sense something evil about it. Seconds later, I'm relieved to find my dog run over a brow of the hill. He seems okay, a little shaken up and quieter than usual, but he's okay. I walk towards where the creature ran away. I look down on the floor and I see some of the strangest footprints I have ever seen. They had quite a humanoid shape about them, but only had 3 protruding bits at the end, which I could only refer to as toes. I followed the steps back. I didn't really want to follow them forward, as I didn't want to find out where this creature had gone. But when I followed them back, I realized they run adjacent to my own. This creature was following me. That's why I had the strange feeling that I did. I'm always a lot more careful now, but I always still feel like sometimes something is watching me. Number 2. I'm a 21-year-old female. During my second year of university, something awful happened to me. I went clubbing with some friends. It was just a regular day. but the weather forecast stated we were going to have some snowstorms. Now, being young and being a student, they were the least of my concerns, so we headed out anyway to the local clubs and bars. About 5 or 6 hours had gone by, and we were just enjoying ourselves. We got so lost in the moment, it seemed, that we completely forgot that we were due to have the snowstorms. So we go outside to see what's gone on, and it looks like something out of the day after tomorrow. So I decide I'm going to go home. My mother would have been very worried about me at this point, and I had a couple of missed calls off of her. I leave the bar when almost immediately a young man shows up in a car, asking me if I wanted a lift home. Now, even though I do live in quite a small town, we do tend to know everybody, and this guy he didn't ring a bell. I didn't really recognize him, and I'm not in a habit of getting in a car with strangers. I thank him, and I tell him I'm just going to walk, as I only live down the road. The look in his eyes changed, and it sent a shiver down my spine the way he looked at me. But I carried on as normal. So I continued to walk down the road. There are no cars, and there's only the occasional dog walker. And I'm walking around in my night out gear, so I'm absolutely freezing at this point. From behind me, I hear the sound of snow brushing through someone's feet. I turn my head slightly to see who it is, but I try to make it so that it looks normal. It's at that point the feet behind me start moving faster and faster. I panic, and I quickly look behind, and as soon as I turn around, I fall to the floor. I open my eyes, and I look up, and I see an older gentleman and a young lady looking over me, asking me if I was okay. I start panicking and lashing out, and I think I accidentally slapped the older gentleman on the face. After I come to, they told me that as they were driving down the street, they saw a young man dragging me across the floor. I confirmed this by looking behind me, where I could see the marks of me being dragged. They said I was being dragged into the back of a car, and when they got out and challenged him, he drove off. After they described the man, I realised it was the same person who stopped and asked me if I wanted a ride home earlier. I reported the incident to the police, but they never caught the guy, and the registration plate was fake. Now every time we have a snow day, I get panic attacks, and I cannot leave the house. I just feel as if one day he'll come back to finish what he started. Number 3. Now, I live in the Scottish Highlands. We have a special breed of rabbit up here that between August and February we can hunt legally for the purposes of population control. Now, irrespective of your views on hunting, this is not necessarily about that. We were out shooting hares for a couple of hours. Now, the Scottish Highlands is a very, very vast place, and all these years I have only ever walked across a small percentage of the overall land. We decided to go hunting in a different place, as we weren't getting much luck where we had been. We walked down this rugged mountainous area, and decided we were going to go near a tree line, and make our way into a little bit of forest that was just ahead of us. Now, we start taking our time, start looking out. I'm carrying my shotgun in my right hand, and my friend is carrying his in his left. As we're walking, we look to the floor, and we see blood. Not only that, but this blood is trailing towards something, so we decide to follow it. Maybe hunters had already been here, and if that was the case, there was probably little game left to be had. Also, I forgot to mention that it had just started to snow, so we were in a rush to get a couple more kills and to get home. Also, the land has a thin layer of snow on it, making it hard for us to spot any hairs that might have been around. So, we're following this blood, and it leads to a tree stump. The white on the floor had changed to red at this point, and there was blood everywhere. Now, even though we are hunters, we are not complete savages, and it starts to turn my stomach sick. I look up to find that there was a mountain hare nailed to a tree. Its throat had been cut, and on a log next to it, all its innards were placed. I could see its heart, its lungs. But the worst thing was yet to come. On the snow in the floor, there was something written. It said, "Turn back." We instantly got an uneasy feeling, and there was no way that I was going to hang around. Me and my friend turned around and ran in the opposite direction. We went back there eventually, but because it was so cold, it was very hard to tell where we were going and to see if we were at the right place again. God knows what kind of person would do that. But I know, even being a hunter, I wouldn't. Hey guys, it's Peacemaker here. Really hope you enjoyed the video. I am currently enjoying a snow day myself, which has been absolutely great. If you could just do me a favour, like the video, share and subscribe to the channel. Also, look on screen now and you'll see some additional content from myself. And if you have any feedback, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. This is Peacemaker, and remember what I always say. Be careful of those things that go bump in the night.